In a 10 spring lock. A lot of people still think that Afton died while being spring locked in FNAF 3. And honestly, when the game came out, this was actually seemingly correct. I mean, we never really saw Afton go limp like he truly died, but for all intents and purposes, Afton was dead in FNAF 3. But then, as more games came out and more was added to the story and to the lore, Afton was shown to never have died in the game, since, you know, he was, as we now know, being kept alive by the one you should not have killed, who was possessing him as an individual and was keeping him alive so that he could continue to suffer for all of his crimes. So honestly, before William even started his whole always coming back thing, he came back from the dead, at least technically speaking, which I still think is damn impressive, okay? I haven't died before, even technically, unless we count like on the inside or my dreams, but hey, we don't need to talk about that at the start of a video, right? In a 9 explosion. Okay, so, well, physically speaking, William dies in The Man in Room 1280, the 3rd story from the 5th Fazbear Frights book. Quite extravagantly, might I add, exploding into a pile of mush right before a pastor's eyes. But like, how would that have been possible? How could William just have exploded like that? It's not something that you really think about, and I think I have an explanation, but it's certainly a bit more interesting than spontaneous combustion. William knew about possession and how it works, okay? He knew about agony and how his daughter got scooped and his son was crunched. So, what if he tried to ensure his own survival by intentionally causing himself extreme agony, injecting or installing some form of explosive that, when triggered or when in the vicinity of a Fazbear warehouse or trigger device, would cause him to explode violently from the inside out, creating what is possibly one of the most agonizing ways to die, even in the FNAF series. I mean, this guy was absolutely mental, okay? Even potentially injecting himself with molten soul metal remnant in an effort to keep himself alive. So for me, it isn't out of the question that William inserted an explosive device into himself. But considering all that comes after this, glitch trap and whatnot, and the fact that Burn Trap still has William's body inside, I don't think that this one is really canon, and I don't think that this actually caused William to die. And if you're enjoying this video, guys, hit like, okay? It really helps us out, especially with the algorithm almighty. Praise be its name. So yeah, did you do it? Why the heck not? Okay, do it now, babe, please. In at 8, second spring lock. I say second, even though technically Afton's second trapping was in the books, but also some may not consider that possible in the main series, but you know what? In the context of the number, it makes sense. So, could William have suffered a spring lock failure before getting trapped in the spring Bonnie suit like we see in FNAF 3? It's possible. Explains why I say again as well, because, well, it would have been first, but it's again on this list. Since William is described to have scars that are consistent with a spring lock failure in the novels before becoming Springtrap. So, could it have happened in the games? Maybe. We don't really see William in a visual sense in the games, aside from him being purple. So, I don't know. Maybe William was the reason the spring lock suits were retired in the first place, since we hear of an unfortunate incident at the sister location. So, is that unfortunate incident William? There are plenty of people that it could be, none of which are named, but William having to deal with his own injury would certainly get them put out of commission for a time, but with William then continuing to use the suit to kill people and then putting it on again like we see in the FNAF 3 cutscene suggests that this scenario is unlikely, but you know what, it's still possible, so it's still a possible death. In at 7, accident. Now, aside from me, maybe this whole deal was an accident, right? Maybe more so than just his kids getting killed by robots intended to kill. Maybe William's real first victim wasn't Charlotte. Maybe he did kill his wife, but accidentally. Maybe they were a bit too rough, or maybe she had a condition that made her susceptible to falling or something, and William accidentally tripped her. Maybe when that happened, in whatever way it did, William saw the life leave her eyes and liked it, but then wanted to see how it would look on a kid. So he set about making robots that would help him see it. But his kids got instead. But then he still liked the sight of it so much that he continued. Maybe he wasn't built like it, but the sight of watching someone die, maybe even his wife or lover, awakened something deep within him that then propelled him to kill. It's nothing new, it's happened to plenty of people before, but William is dangerous. He knows how to cover his tracks. Despite the absolute buffoonery of his methods, the cops were none the wiser. Or maybe he was just paying them off. Halfway through in at number 5, meta theory. Now, honestly, this isn't possible. Not even in the slightest. Unless Scott had some seriously messed up story in mind. But my meta theory is just because I want a chance to yell in this video. And to be frank, this would be my serial killer origin if I was Afton, okay? What if somehow, some way, William ended up seeing the FNAF Rule 34 art that's online? Specifically about his various forms, particularly Springtrap. I mean, that would be pretty blasphemous if I'm honest. And time travel does exist in the FNAF universe thanks to Into the Pit. So in theory, Afton could have gone to the future and seen the absurd Springtrap fan art and then gone back and had been so flabbergasted and traumatized from seeing himself lubing up Troll Tower that he went nuts and started killing the people responsible for his horrific perversion of his life. Whether it be specific people that did that or just the demographic that would grow up to then do that, okay? It could have just been the ships as well, like seeing himself shipped with the likes of animatronics that his kids end up possessing would certainly cause me to lash out. So yeah, not possible in the slightest, but funny as hell to think about, and frankly, understandable. And at 4, sacrifice. Maybe this isn't about fan art or a demon deal at all. Maybe Afton is just a religious man who worships the old gods, more specifically, the dark ones, and believes, like some ancient cultures, that sacrifice is the key to a peaceful and long life. I mean, in the end, if this is the case, he wasn't wrong. His misdeeds end up getting him possessed, which allows him to live for much longer than he should have without food or water, after being spring locked for 30 years, and through multiple fires. I mean, if this is his motivation, this would absolutely make sense to him and actually to him be proven true. Like maybe he doesn't know that his body is being possessed, at least until Ultimate Custom Night when the vengeful spirit reveals himself. Maybe until that point he genuinely thought that he was being kept alive by the gods. Hell, maybe even after the one you should not have killed reveals himself, he's still thinking that it's one of the gods instead of one of his victims. Crazy people believe crazy things, right? So who knows? Maybe Afton just thinks he's doing the Dark Lord's bidding in exchange for eternal life. Or maybe an end to his suffering after losing his wife or something like that, okay? There are many explanations, although I doubt that this one is very likely. I still like talking about it. It's fun to explore. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, FNAF 6. Could William have been dead before FNAF 6 takes place? I think it's a possibility, technically, because like, what happened to Springtrap between games to cause such horrific warps to his body? Like, sure, he was burnt in FNAF 3, but we also see him alive and not all that damaged in Sister Location's Night 7 ending cutscene. So, where did all of this additional damage and warping come from? The head becomes larger somehow, and so do the feet. I don't know, okay? This genuinely doesn't make any sense. We know that they're the same person, thanks to Ultimate Custom Night's voice lines, but I'm so confused as to what could have happened to cause this. I'm sure the extra damage comes from possibly fending off wild animals, since, you know, he's still a body, a rotting corpse that would attract scavengers. So how did the head of the suit get bigger? It's not like it evolved, it's not like it leveled up like freaking Magikarp from punching all these wolves. My only guess is that like, William either broke into a Fazbear warehouse and tried to like reassemble himself, or I don't know, maybe the gases from an actual decaying corpse, if he was dead prior to this, caused the head to expand, but even that wouldn't make sense. I don't know, we see so much damage. Maybe being a corpse just caused the suit to mess up because Scott was like, that's what I want. But ultimately, into number 2, the Blob. The true ending of FNAF Security Breach is seemingly one of the most interesting parts of the game because it contains a whole load of little things to watch out for. It also actually ends the game, which at this point I think is probably the best thing. After making our way into Burntrap's area, Freddy is going to be taken over by Afton's newest form, and then it's up to Gregory to defeat him by using 3 monitors with corresponding buttons that activate fire and seemingly trigger his weakness, which is a whole other story. Players, you'll need to avoid the animatronics that come out after you, but you can use doors to lock them out, you can use Freddy to scare him off. There's a lot that you can do. And then when Burntrap is finally burned even more, I guess at this point he's just trapped, because like in math it cancels out, right? The Blob, which was like a tentacle monster thing that was attacking us, then attacks Burntrap, William, and then tries to make sure he doesn't get free, okay? Then we run away, but my question is, does the Blob actually kill William? I don't know. Like, there are death animations in the game files, apparently, allegedly, I haven't seen them, but they weren't used, so we can't really consider that canon. Plus, the whole I always come back thing is definitely annoying, and I thought it would have ended before this game, but clearly not, so I don't know anymore. Just, God, for fuck's sakes, please let William be dead. And finally, in at number 1, Never Died. Currently, what we know about Remnant and Agony tells us that to destroy it properly, we need to burn it, hence why there are so many damn fires in this series. FNAF 3, 6, and Security Breach all end with something or someone getting burned. FNAF 3's fire was all about dealing with Springtrap, FNAF 6 was about putting everyone who knew about the atrocities to rest, and then in FNAF 9 we burned Trap multiple times to try to get him to stop possessing Freddy. And then it's all because Henry learned that the only way to destroy Remnant and put these things to rest was through fire. But how is that really like, is that really the thing? Because like, all 3 fires haven't really done anything. They haven't done We've been told that fire is the only thing hot enough to burn off the Remnant, but it's also been described as Remnant liquid metal. So if the soul-infused metal can become a liquid, then how is it possible to just burn off the soul part? That's not how metallurgy works. I think it's metallurgy, I don't know. That's not how things work, okay? That's not how the universe works. Dr. Talbot is lying. He's William, alright? There's a whole video on it. Go check it out, alright? William is lying. He made up the fire thing so he couldn't be killed. And it's 10, killing where you eat. The biggest mistake that William ever made, in my personal opinion, and I will say this until the day I die, was the fact that he killed people in his restaurant, okay? It's unknown if this was always his intention, but like, come on. Who would think that this is a good idea? Like, who in the comments wants to come at me and try to justify killing your prime demographic in your place of business, okay? Dealers don't kill their customers, okay? Mechanics only bleed their clients dry of their money, not their blood. So like, why would William think that this is a good idea? Literally, go anywhere else. This is just like, it's basically killing in your house and then like calling the cops and saying, hey, I killed someone in my house. It's putting unwanted attention and scrutiny on literally everything you do just so they can try to catch you. Like, you even end up getting banned from going back into your building when the investigation is underway. And it's not like it helped your business. You had to close the first location because of this, resulting in you having to open another one that killed your daughter. So, yeah, pretty embarrassing if you ask me. All you had to do was go to the park or some random alleyway or like a laser tag place, and then boom, your kids would be alive, you'd be harder to suspect, and you'd be rich from your business, because honestly it was a good idea, but you're done. And at 9, Cassidy. Assuming for this scenario that Cassidy is the one you should not have killed, this was also one of the most embarrassing things that William could have done. Or maybe he doesn't consider it a mistake because like the one you should not have killed is kind of keeping him alive after all, although it's still unclear if they're doing that currently or not. But they're doing it as a way to make him suffer. So I feel like getting possessed by a child is pretty embarrassing. I mean that, like, depending on the angle that you want to like look at, that I'm going with it's embarrassing. If I was possessed by a child, I would be embarrassed. I don't think I am, hopefully. But even if he does like consider this a good thing, or if Cassidy doesn't end up being the one you should not have killed, which in my opinion she's not, but like killing those 5 kids that made up the missing children's incident that likely ended with Cassidy, that's dude. Come on, we already talked about it. You killed in the wrong place. It's embarrassing. So, you know what? If you don't want to count Cassidy as the embarrassing mistake, count the missing children's incident as that mistake, alright? Just count it whatever way you want. It's on the list, deal with it. And at 8, Charlotte. While yes, Charlotte may have been Afton's first true kill, causing his descent into absolute freaking madness. In the games, Charlotte ends up possessing the puppet, who then gives life to the other animatronics, which causes you to disassemble them and release their spirit. In both universes where William kills Charlotte, it comes back to bite him in the ass since Henry comes after him for it, which results in what should be his death multiple times over. And not to mention how in the book specifically, unbeknownst to her at least, she is an animatronic robot that was meant to replace the daughter that Henry had lost. But it was also revealed that the animatronic is also Baby. You know, the baby animatronic that we all know and love? Yeah, who can switch between her forms at will, and then the human version doesn't remember being Baby. So yeah, Charlotte in the books is also Baby, which is also in the games William's daughter. And at 7, FNAF 3. Okay, look, the last few numbers may seem to make this not make sense, but listen, okay? Afton, in a sense, does die in FNAF 3, since this was meant to be the final game in the series until the fans were disappointed with the main jump scare, okay? So, prior to Scott releasing FNAF 4, William Afton was canonically dead, and the series was over. But after that, things were more complicated than they ever had been before. And many people do consider Afton dead after getting spring-locked, like I said, which isn't true, since he was being kept alive by the one you should not have killed, aka Crying Child. Oh yeah, you're gonna get mad at me, but it's true. But technically speaking, until the continuation of the story between the time of FNAF 3's release and the day before FNAF 4's release, William was dead. Oh, wait a second. He shows up in the final newspaper in the background, doesn't he? I don't know. Maybe he was never supposed to be dead, but the series was supposed to be. So as far as I'm concerned, if the series dies, so does the character. And it would have stayed that way too if it weren't for you meddling kids and your damn animatronics. Afton would have been dead in the spring Bonnie suit eventually, okay? Never being possessed by his son because he wasn't added. He would have eventually ended up shutting down just due to the wear of the animatronic, since Henry wouldn't have kept setting fires that would remove all the rust and whatnot. At least I think that's how it would work. And eventually he'd have been forgotten when Poppy Playtime came out, so yeah, this counts for me. And at 6, Glitch Trap. Currently, post-True Security Breach ending, there seem to be 2 instances of Afton roaming the halls of the Pizzaplex. Or I guess, one roaming and one trapped in a giant ghost of animatronics past blob. So, this really begs a philosophical question: is Glitch Trap truly an instance of William Afton? Because if it is, then everything we should know about the series and how possession works in the FNAF universe is wrong. Currently, from what we've established in this universe, there are 2 main ways to actually maintain life after what should have been death in this FNAF world, universe, whatever. Or at least in the games, there's 2, okay? The books also have human robots, but that hasn't been proven canonical yet. The games have Remnant and Possession, which are connected but aren't the same thing. Remnant is seemingly a byproduct of Possession, being a combination of metal and soul, showcased in the books as the 5 endoskeletons of the original Freddy's animatronics possessed by the original Missing Children's incident victims, and then Possession comes before that. But Afton wasn't possessing anything, he was being possessed. And Glitch Trap is an intentional feature within FNAF VR, along with also being a virus, or I guess the virus took the form of the main antagonist that was meant to be in the VR game. But it also takes control over Vanessa. The only explanation here is that either Vanessa is a robot, but then again, if she is, then why is she looking at herself in the rooftop ending if she doesn't have a soul because she is a robot? So maybe this needs its own video, maybe it doesn't, I don't know, let me know. Halfway through into number 5, Henry. In the case of William Afton, his first victim was the daughter of his longtime business partner Henry, which is hella messed up because she was 3 at the time, that time being 1983. And this is also the year that Afton's life starts going downhill in the worst ways possible. But he starts off killing kids and then sticks with that MO throughout the rest of his criminal career. But the fact that his first victim was someone who trusted him, who didn't exactly suspect him even though her father did, is something that even I fear, and I'm not even a parent. So I can only imagine how this must have felt for Henry. And if that was me, I'd be doing a lot more than burning down restaurants in an attempt to put William down, okay? I'd be doing it with myself, with my bare hands. Especially if he had killed my daughter when she was only 3 years old, okay? Afton got lucky that Henry didn't have more initiative in my mind, okay? I have no idea why he didn't, because I'd rather go to jail for killing the man that killed my daughter than chase him for 50 years trying to burn him to the ground. But like, come on, okay? Who would really blame him too? Afton got so lucky that Henry is just a little who wants to use fire to stop him, okay? I wouldn't care about going to prison if Afton had killed my kid. No chance in hell, especially when she was that young. I would have choked him out with my bare hands and wrenched his neck. Also, hello to the jury. In at 4, Zombie. There's also the possibility that Afton has been a zombie this entire time, and honestly, that makes me extremely angry. I'm masking it though. Because out of all the things that the FNAF series has done, this would be the cheapest and the worst. Forget Dream Theory, forget this all being a storybook, forget everything else. This would be the dumbest thing that FNAF could do, since it would basically come out of nowhere, okay? People already think that Michael is a zombie after getting innards shoved into him, but zombies aren't purple, guys, okay? And then making that into yet another, like, father-like son parallel would be so stupid and such a horrible retcon that it would be worse than it all being a dream, especially after establishing that Afton was being possessed prior to the spring locking, which would most likely have ended up with his death, and if he was made into a zombie, that would probably be his death point, okay? It would just change too much about the series series for things to make sense, and would probably result in a whole lot of rage from the community. Or at least I hope everyone would find this stupid enough to get mad at, because I would, and I want to be validated. And finally, into number 1, Springtrap. Being the genius behind some of the most advanced robotic technology in the universe, we expect a lot from William, okay? He's the suit technician, he's the main killer, he seems to be the CEO of the company, so he should really know what he's doing, right? Apparently not. Since after discovering that the original 5 animatronics were possessed, he disassembled them to learn their secrets. This inadvertently released the spirits of the original 5 victims though, causing William to panic, which is understandable since firstly, they're freaking ghost kids that he never expected to see again, and also because they're the ghost kids that he killed. Okay, so this absolute animatronic genius, the technician that has handled the suit maintenance for years and has explained to every employee the proper procedure for the spring lock suits, including the spring bodysuit that he uses, ends up climbing inside the suit in a panic, in an attempt to make himself feel more powerful and maybe scare off the ghost kids. However, he's so smart that he didn't notice the moisture in the room, the leaking ceiling, which causes the spring locks that were active at this moment since it was in suit mode to fail, which would have killed him had he not been possessed by the one you should not have killed. Yeah, embarrassing. In at 10, Bloodlust. The reason for Afton killing could be simple. He could just want to kill. It could be a compulsion like any classic serial killer or psychopath. He's more calculated than that, but it could still be a basic human need in his eyes. He could prey on kids because they can't really defend themselves. Sure, they can resist, but only if they see it coming. He's all about gaining their trust. A kid won't be looking over their shoulder at a character they've known for so long after he's just given them a slice of pizza or cake. Plus, kids' bones are incredibly easy to break. Not that I know from experience. I have no idea why suggest such a thing. What? He could just have a compulsion to kill, but uses the easiest target so that he won't have much of a fight on his hands. In at 9, Buyout. This could also be about business, however. William could want control over Fazbear Entertainment, and could maybe not have the money to buy out Henry or activate the shotgun clause in their contract. A shotgun clause being a special provision in a partnership contract used to force a partner to sell stake in the company or buy out the other partner, basically forcing one of them out of the company, so the other would be alone. William may know Henry has enough money to reject a shotgun offer and counter, forcing William to leave. So killing the missing kids could be a way to get Henry to consider leaving, and when that didn't work, he moved on to Henry's daughter Charlotte, who possessed the puppet and made everything more complicated. Henry eventually did end up leaving, since we see in FNAF World that Baby kills Henry in that game, so yeah. And at 8, Loss. William could have suffered a major loss that caused him to fall off the wagon. This could have been his wife, or baby mama, a parent, or both his parents, or maybe even another kid that we've never seen and don't know about. It has always been a mystery what happened to the mother of Michael, Elizabeth, and the crying child, but to this day we don't have a full explanation. Maybe she left and that caused a break in his psyche. Maybe she got caught in a house fire like Immortal and the Restless seems to indicate. Or maybe she did die in a car crash like some FNAF Minecraft music videos depict it. The loss of a family member, loved one, or something else could be what caused this entire series. Halfway through into number 5, Elizabeth. Speaking of mistakes, let's talk about his own daughter. I get it, because she's a mistake. Actually, we don't know. She might be. I don't know how William thought that, like, this was a good idea, though. Like, I feel like this guy, like, trying to brainstorm how to capture kids more efficiently. And like, he hadn't even started killing at this point. He's like, oh, I know, I can make a robot to lure them in with ice cream and then grab them where they're close. Okay, so what's it gonna look like? Oh, let's call my daughter and ask for some design tips, you know? Then like Elizabeth ends up making the most predictable move ever and going directly against her father's instructions like a kid to go see the robot. That's basically perfect in her eyes. William, why? Why did you think that this wasn't going to happen? You had to lock your child in his room so that he wouldn't go to Freddy Fazbear's fucking pizza, and you think that your daughter isn't gonna walk up to an animatronic, especially at the age where they want to piss you off. And they're also seemingly loaded because you own a successful entertainment business, okay? Spoiled rich kids listening to their dad when they say to not touch a giant robot that was made to appeal to kids. Yeah, that's gonna work. God, you're a special kind of stupid. It's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. It is truly embarrassing, bro. Okay? All you needed to do was have a blacklist and say, don't kill these kids. And you would have been fine. But no. In at 4, fun times. Now, there's no doubting what you've achieved on a technical level. These are clearly state of the art. There are just certain design choices that were made for these robots that we don't fully understand. We were hoping you could shed some light on those. Well, she can dance, she can sing. She's equipped with a built-in helium tank for inflating balloons right at her fingertips. She can take song requests. She can even dispense ice cream. Yeah, with all due respect, those weren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton. Yeah, that classic line of William seemingly being interrogated by the police that plays the first time you open up Sister Location is definitely showcasing how embarrassingly stupid this guy is. The cops know what these animatronics are doing and are capable of, and what they were designed to do, so they instantly end up being even more suspicious of him. And considering like the circumstances, we can also assume that Elizabeth is inside the robot. Like, there's no way that they confiscated the animatronics before they had to close Circus Babies. So she is definitely still inside the robot. So they're definitely keeping a closer eye on him, and his daughter's in a robot that they're asking him about, okay? Bro, yeah, why? Designing the fun times as killbots before seemingly you actually had the rest of the FNAF roster, definitely an embarrassing moment. Especially considering how one of the fun times was meant to symbolize your dead wife. I don't wanna know how you were trying to fill that one with souls, bro. Leave me out of it. In at 3, mental break. William could have just suffered from a good old-fashioned mental breakdown so bad it caused him to go on a killing spree. I mean, we've all had at least one, right? When you see quick saving up in the top left corner, yeah, you know that you're gonna load that up within 5 minutes time. But William's quick save was real. Things could have been piling up. A mortgage, the tax man, investors, the business could have been failing, Circus Babies had failed. He could have had so much on his shoulders that he thought the only way to save his life is to bring more people to the business by killing off a bunch of kids and making sure they're never found. So we aren't liable, but we also get to see some press, and they'll come around to see if they can piece the mystery together. Or because we want to make video games about this and then make even more money. He could have thought it was the only way to save the business, or that he was doing it to bring them great fortune because he's insane or something like that. Or a combination of multiple of these scenarios. In at 2, the mysteries of Aetherius. Afton is obsessed with death, and in the original FNAF novels it's revealed that he's searching for a way to become immortal through the use of Remnant once he discovers that kids dying in agony causes them to possess animatronics. But what if he was searching for the meaning of life or the secret to immortality this whole time? I mean, it would make sense, especially if MatPat was right about Afton killing Susie's dog and then watching it possess Mangle, which is a theory apparently a load of people despise, despite it literally being a theory. It's an idea. But I digress. William could be trying to make the world a better place in his own sick way, maybe after losing his wife or parent, looking for a way to bring them back from death. And he does in a way, since he immortalizes the woman Ballora is meant to represent in the form of Ballora. But he doesn't have quite what he wants, so he goes searching for it via more intense means. Finally, in at number 1, payback. The idea of payback has never really been explored. There is no evidence that it is the reason, and it's all pure speculation, but what if Susie was the child of someone who did him wrong? Maybe William and his wife were in a car accident and she died, and in the other car was Susie's parents, so he took from them what they took from him, someone he loved. Or it could have been a robbery gone bad, or he could have mistaked Susie for another child, and Cassidy was the one he wanted to get revenge on. But they were at the same party and Susie walked in with Cassidy's parents. There are a lot of unknown variables out there, but I'm only proposing a few ideas. But revenge is always a motive for murder. An eye for an eye, they say, or a life for a life. In this case, the one wrong caused countless of innocent lives and so much pain and suffering. Hell, he may have wanted revenge on Henry, so he killed them to shut down the business so that he could watch him suffer, and when that didn't work, he went for the next best thing, Henry's daughter. And at 7, pot. There are plenty of reasons William could start killing. He's smart and proficient at this point, but have we considered the fact that he wasn't always the killer we know? Everyone has to start somewhere, so what if he was doing some form of illegal or killer-like activity and he was caught and had to take his first human life? He could have found Susie's dog on the street and then been caught by her, thus making him need to kill her too. It does slightly go against the story that we've come to think, since we assume that he used her dog as a way to lure her to the back rooms and put her in the Chica suit, but there has to be something more here that we're missing. He could have been caught by the parents maybe and had to kill them, but realized that adults put up too much of a fight. Or maybe he got caught torturing the dog by his wife, who he then had to kill, driving him further down the rabbit hole. Everything is a possibility until we know the truth. And at 6, annoying. I'm gonna give it to you straight. Kids are annoying. I don't care if you're a kid, or if you have kids, doesn't matter. Kids are annoying as hell. There are kids who play soccer in the hallway of my building who have ruined multiple recordings multiple times. Even when they and their parents are told that they're not allowed to do that, they still let their kids play in the hall. Scooters, balls, Nerf guns, hell, you name it, they're using it. I honestly don't blame William at that point. If we go back into a stay-at-home and I have to deal with those creatures, you'll have to start calling me the purple guy. Afton could have been pushed to the brink by all the screaming children at Freddy's and then just wanted some peace and quiet. Then it just escalated, but alas, we'll never know. Yet, at least. Halfway through number 5, accident. This may sound far-fetched, but what if it was just an accident? He would have had to have the idea to start killing, since we see him lure Susie away in FNAF 6's Fruity Maze minigame. But what if he brought her in and hesitated, having a moment of doubt before maybe she ran into the knife or he got scared and pulled the trigger? Hell, she could have slipped and broke her neck thanks to no wet floor sign. It's entirely plausible that William actually caused her death before plunging a knife deep into their sternum. I mean, it's highly unlikely, but something that's fun to think about nonetheless. And at 4, deal with the devil. This could be literal or metaphorical. William could have literally made a deal with a demon that required him to kill someone, or even kids specifically, but we don't know if demons are confirmed in the FNAF universe. Or he could have made a metaphorical deal, knowing that an incident like the missing children's would result in the business getting more news coverage, and all the kids who are into horror would want to go there, because no matter how bad of an idea it is, I still see comments to this day saying that you would go to a Freddy Fazbear's location even if all the games were true. Are you serious? If you love the idea of Freddy Fazbear so much, why did Chuck E. Cheese have to close so many locations? Why are they nearly bankrupt? And this was all pre-pandemic, so you can't blame it on that. At this point, if Chuck E. Cheese rebranded to a horror joint, it would make millions. And Scott couldn't really be mad at it, since the whole idea of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is based on Chuck E. Cheese. It made him a lot of money, so why can't it make them money? Sorry, this kinda got out of hand, but you get the idea. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, dream theory. There is also the possibility that none of this was real, and that everything is actually a dream, which kinda negates the whole origin story thing, because in a dream, we don't need to worry about origin stories. We just worry about what's happening in the present moment. I mean, dreaming about yourself having a nightmare is a whole other level of meta, like Inception style, but also not really, because in this scenario, Crying Child would actually be dreaming about dreaming, whereas in Inception, they don't know that any of those dreams are actually dreams. It's also interesting since if Crying Child is dreaming all of this, he dreams that he also died, but then somehow the dream continues past that, which I've never had happen before. If I die in a dream, I wake up, which in my opinion makes more of a case for him being the vengeful spirit, but I don't like dream theory because it feels cheap, so I'm not even going to entertain the thought of it any more than I have to. If dream theory is correct, which seems to be no longer the case, but maybe it was intended beforehand, then the origin of William is totally obsolete, so let's hope it's not dream theory. But ultimately, in a number 2, time loop. Could Afton be stuck in a Groundhog Day-like scenario? Instead of a day, it's however many years. I mean, this one is absolutely wild and 100% guaranteed not to be the case, but ever since time travel was introduced into the series, it's a whole other thing now. Literally, the first Fazbear Frights book had to do us like that. Anyway, what if William actually started living his life on repeat, the same thing over and over? That would drive anyone crazy. I mean, like, just look at what happened to Bill Murray. But if we ended up thinking about it, if William didn't think that there were consequences and then he went berserk, maybe he started offing people because he could, but then the cycle broke. It's absolutely ridiculous, and again, 100% not the case, but it's pretty interesting to consider. I mean, the time-traveling ball pit had the golden Bonnie and was introduced for a reason, right? Maybe it's to show that Afton is all about time travel, or something along those lines. Again, no way this is real, so don't yell at me in the comments. It's a stupid idea, but it's fun to think about nonetheless. And finally, in a number 1, psychopath. There's also the classic reason that there is no reason, and that William is just your typical run-of-the-mill psychopath who has no remorse for any of his actions. Now, the vengeful spirit, referred to as the one you should not have killed, seems to prevent this theory from being true, since if he had no remorse, nobody would be considered the one you should not have killed. But remember that actually, they named themselves. William didn't actually name them because the manifestations in his head were made by this vengeful spirit who wanted him to suffer. So William might not have considered them, whether it be Cassidy or Crying Child, one that he should not have killed, or at least had a hand in killing, but they could have considered it and like, you shouldn't have killed me because now I'm possessing you. Like, it's entirely plausible that William has no regrets for any of his actions, hence why he continued his killing after losing 2 out of his 3 children to it. I mean, like, he even sent Michael down there to see his sister possessing a robot who then also tried to kill him. So, I think it's safe to say that he probably doesn't care about losing people that he should love. He probably only had kids to actually seem normal, like those who are considered psychopaths or more commonly sociopaths. They do things to try and fit in, usually.